All right, good morning. We're going to start today with a joke. Why should you never trust atoms? Because they make up everything. So let's get started. This is our final video lesson. This is going to be where we edit our essay and add anything that we're missing. The first thing that I'm actually going to do is check the essay rubric. Now that I have all of my ideas on paper and I have a rough draft of a story, I'm going to check to see what it is that I need to accomplish. So I'm going to take a look at this rubric, and there are 4 categories that I want to make sure I'm getting a 6 in, because all of you can get a 100% if you put the time in to check that everything meets the rubric. So first of all, for audience and purpose, does this essay provide clear insight about an experience and contain interesting details? So what this ultimately means is, are we adding a lot of detail to our story? Are we just saying really quickly, yeah, one time I broke my leg and it was kind of hard, but I learned to never give up? That's not a detailed story. What I want to know is what you were seeing, what you were hearing, what you were smelling, what you were experiencing when this happened. You really want to paint a vivid picture. So are we providing a clear window into this time in your life? That's the first category. Secondly, in terms of organization, this looks a little bit different for narrative than it does for argumentative and for informative, but we do need to provide organization. And what that looks like in a narrative is telling our reader where and when things are happening. So what this looks like is transition words. Now, on the peer review, I've said, does this essay have at least 4 transition words or phrases? That could be something like later that afternoon in the soccer field, or the next day when I was on my way to school. Those are transition phrases that show time and or place. And I said 4, but really it should be all throughout the narrative. So if that's 4, if it's a shorter essay, really that's a minimum. It should probably be more than 4 if you're communicating to your reader where and when things are happening. So organization in a narrative is transition words. Where and when are things happening? Our third category is elaboration. Does this contain dialogue? Now, dialogue is a conversation between characters. So that means that you're using, that's right, quotation marks. So you're going to use quotation marks correctly. That means that commas and periods and question marks and exclamation points are inside those quotation marks. And every time a new speaker says something, you enter to the next line. So not only are you formatting those conversations correctly, but those conversations should be interesting. So instead of just saying said over and over again, how can we use different synonyms for said? Did the person declare something? Or did they murmur something? Or did they whisper something? Or did they cry something? You need to choose a descriptive word for said. I don't want to see said. Said is dead. Part of elaboration is using imagery. Imagery is the 5 senses. So if you're not sure what to add, think about adding one detail for each sense in your essay at some point. Well, it doesn't mean that in every single part of the essay you're talking about how things smelled or how things sounded, but you should have at least one of each kind of detail in your entire essay. I want to know what something sounded like, what it smelled like, what things looked like, how they felt, how they tasted. Include a lot of details. Finally, use of language is our last category. Does this have variety? So I want to see that you are using different kinds of vocabulary. Use the most colorful, descriptive vocabulary that you know. Feel free to use a thesaurus. Just use words that you're pretty confident you know the meaning of, but make it creative, make it descriptive, change things up a little bit. Use a wide variety of vocabulary and check cups. Remember, capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling. Don't forget to check those things before you turn it in, because you will be graded on them. Those are my categories. So I'm going to take a second and I'm going to go through my rough draft, and I'm going to get rid of all of the bullet points. That's going to be my first plan, and I'll get rid of the highlights as well. But I'm not going to completely backspace all of it yet, because the bullet points tell me where I probably need transition words. So I'm going to go in, and where there were bullet points, I'm going to add transition words instead. So thankfully for my setting here, I already have this transition word of time. In August of 2021, I moved to Seoul, South Korea. So right away, time and place. And when I introduced my characters, during my first day at the kindergarten, again, that's a setting change, and that's telling me the time that it happened as well. So I don't need to add anything there. All right, so here I might want to add some transition words. So I'm going to go through the rest of this and see if there's any transition words I can add to be more descriptive in when and where these events are happening. Phrases and words that are highlighted in pink, these are all the transition words that I used. So as you can see, I use them throughout the story, and there are way more than 4. So if your story is this long, you should be using more than 4 transition words that show the time and place of what happens. So that was my second category with organization. Now I'm going to go back to the first category with details that engage the audience. So this first category, providing clear insight about the experience, this can be really difficult to do when it's your experience, so you remember all of it. So I would say that this is the category that you can learn the most from your peer review when your peers go through and answer these questions. So ask them if the story makes sense, if there's anything that they have questions about, and that will help you get a 6 in audience and purpose to give all of those details that really present a clear experience. So we've done organization, the peer review will be audience and purpose. Now moving on to elaboration. Is there rich dialogue? Are there sensory imagery and details? So let's look for dialogue. I have dialogue here, and one thing I really want to check with dialogue is that I'm using words other than said. "Oh no," I exclaimed. "Han tom," she cried. "One more time," I declared. "One more time," she echoed. So notice that all of these are words other than said. So when you're writing your dialogue, make sure that you're using words other than said. And actually here, I did not follow my own advice. So I'm going to take said, announced, maybe announced. I like that one. And she announced I chose irises because I love the color blue. So I have dialogue, I have words other than said. I think I've met this part of the rubric. So now I want to look for sensory details. Do I have details that show sight, sound, smell, touch, taste? To make sure of this, I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight every sensory detail, and I'm going to see if I have one for each sensory detail. So I added some imagery here in a description of Seoul, and I have some visual imagery talking about the colorful temples and the glittery modern high-rises, and I have some smell sensory imagery as well, with the smell of baking pastries, meat on the grill, the smell of tteokbokki. So I have visual, I have smell down here as well. So really I want to add sound. That's what I was going to add here. And touch and taste as well. I guess I have taste, so I think taste is good, but sound and touch I should add. The last thing that I'm going to check is that there are no errors in spelling, grammar, or punctuation. So since I used the spell check on Google Docs, the blue line caught a lot of these things already. One thing I want to make sure is that the beginning of every sentence is capitalized and that all names are capitalized. So for example, English is capitalized, Van Gogh is capitalized, Korean is capitalized. These are all proper nouns, so they should have capital letters. Irises is a title, so that's also capitalized. So we want to check capitalization, usage. That means that since I wrote in past tense, every verb needs to be in past tense. I moved to Seoul. I spent 2 weeks. Just as long as all of your verb tenses agree, that's what we mean by usage. And punctuation, do you have quotation marks around your dialogue? This is really important. And spelling. Make sure that you're checking spelling as well. So once you have edited your own draft, then you are going to do a peer review using this paper in your packet. So up here, I want you to write the writer's name. So the person who wrote the essay should go here. And then you're going to write your name here as the peer reviewer. So then you can choose who your partner is for this, but you're going to read their essay and fill out this chart. If the answer is no for more than one of these, please give good reasons below. You might have to write on the back if there's too many reasons that you want to add as well. But everybody should give at least one piece of feedback. So I don't want to see just a bunch of yeses in this column. I want to see that you gave at least some thoughtful feedback for what would make it better. And use these categories. This gives you very clear ideas about, are there at least 4 transition words? Do characters have interesting conversations where they use words other than said? Are there appeals to all 5 senses? So use this rubric to guide your peer review feedback. Again, I'm going to be looking in the packet to see that you went through the writing process and did every stage of this. So this peer review should be done by Friday, so that way next week you can implement the feedback that you get from your peers and make those final changes before you submit your essay. All right, good luck.